The precipitated factors for spina bifida cystica are multifactorial inheritance, potato blight, that is potato will be infected with the Phytopythora infestans fungus. That is when the mother during the first trimester, if the mother ingested a blight damaged potato, so the blight damaged potato which contains a teratogenic substance which will be harmful for the mother as well as to the baby. So this may leads to spina bifida and anencephaly. Then vitamin deficiency and mineral deficiency, especially folate deficiency during the first trimester. Then mother exposure to any hypothermal disease during the maternal period, zinc deficiency, high sound intensity, viral infections, alcohol consumption, medications, especially phenytoin and epilim. These are the precipitated factors which may develop a spina bifida. Then coming to the pathophysiology. So during the 3rd and 4th week of gestation, there will be a formation of the neural tube and neural groove. So 3rd week of gestation, a depression forms in the dorsal ectoderm of the embryo. So the depression come deeper margins closes dorsally to create a neural tube. So the ectoderm of the embryo will form the neural tube. Then the 4th week of gestation, the neural tube ends. The anterior and the posterior part of the neural tube will be comes closer and it will be closed in the anterior and the posterior part. Walls of the neural tube become thickened and it will form as a spinal cord and brain. In case in the spina bifida, there will be a failure of fusion of the dorsal part of the neural tube, which may leads to spina bifida, that is protrusion of the meninges. The clinical manifestations are there will be a loss of bladder and bowel control because the lumbosacral region will be affected. Then partial or complete lack of sensation in the lower extremities. Then partial and complete paralysis of the legs, weakness of the hips, legs or feet of a newborn. Other symptoms which includes abnormal feet or legs, that is the child may develop a clubfoot or that is known as a talipes, and buildup of a fluid inside the skull, that is known as a hydrocephalus. Then according to the involvement of the area, the clinical manifestations are if the thoracic 12th vertebra affected, then the child will have a flaccid in the lower extremities, that is decreased muscle tone or loss of muscle tone. Then decreased sensation and lack of bowel control, incontinence or dribbling of urine. If it is affected in the L1 and L3, that is lumbar 1 and 3, then the child will have a difficulty in the flexion of the hip. Then L2 and L4, that is lumbar 2 and the lumbar 4th vertebra, the child will have a hip abduction. Then lumbar 3 to sacral 2nd vertebra, the child will have a hip abduction, hip extension and the knee flexion will be there. Then in the sacral 3 and below towards that, the child will have no motor impairment. If the sacral roots are affected, the child will have a plantar flexion. These are the symptoms based on the involvement of the vertebral columns. Then other symptoms are because the child will have a frequency incontinence of urine and bowel, so frequent change of diaper or catheter. So due to that, the child will be have a high risk for latex allergies, that due to the exposure of the latex, that is in the catheter it will be present. Okay, so the latex during catheterization or if the child undergoes multiple operations, so that will lead to latex allergies to the child. So this allergic reactions can range from mild symptoms to anaphylactic shock of the child. Then diagnostic evaluation. So during the pregnancy, prenatal test itself we can find out. So we have to go for a alpha fetoprotein AFP during the 16th and 18th week of gestation, which shows increased amount. Then ultrasound and go for a aminosynthesis, that is withdrawal of the amniotic fluid. Then evaluation, that is analysis of individual medical history. We have seen that it is one of the multifactorial inherited disorders. So we have to go for a medical history has to be analyzed and physical examination after birth of the baby. Then imaging studies to know which part of the vertebra is affected. So we have to go for an X-ray, ultrasound, CT scan and MRI. Then coming to the management, so surgical correction. That is usually we have to, the surgical correction has to be performed within 24 hours after birth. That is closure of the defect is through the use of skin grafts or Z-shaped closure has to be performed within 24 hours after birth. They remove the infected area and replace it with the muscle as well as the skin. So this child, if they had a further development of complications, so this may leads to hydrocephalus also. So this surgical correction, if it is done in the earlier stage within 24 hours, helps to protect the child from developing a hydrocephalus. So what is the main reason for this? It is immediate surgical closure helps to reduce the risk of infection as well as the childhood morbidity and mortality. Then in meningomyelocele, that is protrusion of the meninges, vertebra, nerves and the spinal fluid. So surgical correction usually done within 24 hours to prevent the infection as well as injury to the sac as well as to further deterioration of the neural tissues, because the pressure will be more in that area will be. So owing to pressure and traction of the nerve fibers as the sac enlarges and the removal of deformity. So for these reasons we have to take the child for surgical correction within 24 hours. Sometimes if the child condition is not adapted to the surgical corrections, then it may be delayed. So this will be evaluate based on the child's continuing neurological functioning and intellectual disabilities. Abilities of the child will be performed. So coming to the nursing management, so in the meningocele we have to daily measure the head circumference of the child, because it may develop a hydrocephalus. So for that we have to measure the head circumference daily and position the child in the prone position to avoid the pressure on the sac. Protect the sac with the moist sterile dressing. It should not be dry, it should be always covered with the moist sterile dressing, that is using a normal saline. Then after surgery also we have to keep the child in a prone position to prevent the pressure on the incision line. Then in the meningomyelocele, the sac contains the neural tissue as well as the spinal fluid and meninges. So sac should be always covered with the moist sterile dressing. And the sensory disturbance, whether the child is having or not, has to be assessed daily by going for a pin to prick skin test. When the skin is pricked over the lower trunk and the legs, the child does not respond, indicates that the child has developed a sensory deficiency. Then hydrocephalus, so every day we have to check the head circumference and the anterior as well as the posterior frontal has to be assessed for the fullness or bulging, has to be daily checked. Then assessment for neurological examination and radiographic examination of the spine, skull, hips and chest. Then we have to take up cerebrospinal fluid, because it will be leakage will be there. So we have to collect the cerebrospinal fluid as well as the urine for presence of infection, has to be checked daily. Then management is based on the prevention of infection and injury to the sac. So clean the sac with the normal saline or with the hydrogen peroxide solution. The sac has to be protected with the moist sterile dressings, that is a saline or an antibiotic dressing. It should be changed every 2 to 4 hours. Assess the sac for infection or leakage of spinal fluid. If leakage does not occur, then meningitis, a sudden loss of CSF or brainstem herniation and pressure to vital centers. These are the indications we have to see to that whether there is a leakage of spinal fluid or not. So it may be develop a meningitis or sudden loss of CSF fluid. If it is stopped, then this may lead to herniation of the brainstem and pressure to the vital centers. So we have to check that also. Then to decrease the infections, we have to clean the genital as well as buttocks from contamination of the urine and feces, because we have seen that the child will have a loss of bowel and bladder control. So diaper should not be applied, because that will create a pressure over the sac. Or if you want to, if mother wants to apply a diaper for the child, it should be below the level of the protrusion, has to be done. So postoperatively a diaper can be used once the incisions area is healed, wound is healed. If surgery may not done immediately, then we have to apply the tincture benzoin soaked dressing has to be used to cover the sac. A sterile covering over a firm rubber ring can be made from a towel or gauze, but it should not touch the sac. Around the sac, a towel has to be rolled, and we have to protect the sac by forming a ring either with a towel or a gauze. Then we have to keep the sterile tincture benzoin soaked dressing for the moistness. Then prevention of trauma. So to prevent the trauma, we have to keep the baby in a prone position or side lying position, and support can be provided by small rolled blankets or small plastic covered pillows behind the head, and the buttocks can be kept to avoid the pressure over the sac. Rubber pads covered with a soft cloth may be placed between the legs to prevent the pressure on the skin of the knees and ankles. Because when we keep the baby in the prone position, the knee and ankle area will have a pressure point, which may lead to pressure ulcer. So to prevent that, we have to keep a rubber pads which covers with a soft cloth. Then we have to keep the in between the legs, so which will reduce the friction. So we have to keep it. This is the position of the child before as well as after the surgical correction. So the child has to be positioned on the prone with the abduction of the leg. If you see between the leg, there will be a rolled blanket. It is not visible, but they will be keep it under the between the legs to avoid the pressure shows. Then prevention of skin breakdown. Change the position frequently, that is every 2 to 3 hours. Then massage the pressure areas. Then next treatment is nursing management is prevention of infection to the urinary tract. So urine may have to be expressed from the Creed method, that is suprapubic manual expression, has to be done every 2 to 3 hours when urinary retention problem is there for the children. Then provision of adequate nutrition for the child. So when you are giving a nutrition in the prone position, turn the head of the child to one side and tilt it upward with one hand while holding the bottle with the other hand. Then surgery if is delayed, then feed through a large whole nipple. The feeding should be stopped and the nipple withdrawn several times to avoid or to allow the air to be expelled. Then prevention or reduction of deformities, because we have seen this may lead to clubfoot. So congenital hip dislocation also. So hip dislocation can be prevented by keeping the baby in a prone position with abducted legs. Then if it is a clubfoot is there, then feet over the edge of the mattress or small rolls or covered foam rubber pads may be placed under the ankles to prevent the bed sores on the toes, prevent the pressure on the toes, and to maintain the feet in a neutral position. And we can provide a passive exercise to the baby. Then prevention of musculoskeletal deformities. That is already we have seen that hip dislocation. So prone position with the moderately abducted legs to prevent the club foot. So we have to go for a rest to feet and anatomical correction by using a plaster cast or passive stretching exercise. By that we can correct the club foot deformities. Thank you.